Captain Jack Morgan stood on the bridge of the UES Resilient, watching the stars streak by the main view screen. The ship was humanity's pride, their first true deep space vessel, built for both exploration and diplomacy. After 50 years of slow expansion beyond their solar system, humans were finally ready to meet the Valan Confederacy as equals. "Status report," Jack said, his voice calm but firm. "All systems running at peak efficiency, Captain," replied First Officer Diane Wells from her station. "We'll reach Valan space in 3 days." Jack nodded, satisfied. The mission was simple: establish formal diplomatic relations with the Valan, a species that had been watching human development from afar, but had only recently agreed to official contact. The success of this mission would open new trade routes, technological exchanges, and alliances that Earth desperately needed. What Jack didn't know was that not everyone wanted this mission to succeed. The first sign of trouble came at 300 ship time. Jack was jerked from sleep by the wail of emergency sirens. He grabbed his uniform and was halfway to the bridge before the ship-wide announcement system activated. "All hands to emergency stations." Repeat, "All hands to emergency stations." This is not a drill. When Jack reached the bridge, chaos greeted him. Warning lights flashed across every console. The main lights flickered, plunging the bridge into darkness before the backup systems kicked in with a dull red glow. "Report," Jack demanded as he took his chair. Diane's face was grim in the emergency lighting. "We've got cascading system failures across the ship, Captain. Life support is down to 60% and falling. Main reactor is shutting down. Navigation is giving us incorrect readings." "How is this possible?" Jack asked. "Everything was fine 4 hours ago." Before anyone could answer, Chief Engineer Lisa Reed's voice came through on the comm system. "Captain, you need to see this. Now." In the engine room, Lisa pointed to her workstation screen. Jack leaned in, squinting at what looked like microscopic machines. "What am I looking at, Chief?" "Nanobots, sir. Thousands of them. They're systematically destroying our systems from the inside out." Lisa wiped sweat from her forehead. The engine room was already getting hot as climate controls failed. "They're attacking power conduits, navigation circuits, life support, everything." "Sabotage?" Jack asked, though he already knew the answer. Lisa nodded. "No doubt about it. These aren't random failures. These little bastards were programmed to bring us down." Security Officer Marcus Black appeared at Jack's side, his tablet showing surveillance footage. "Captain, I think I found how they got on board." He played a video showing a maintenance worker at Outpost 7, their last stop before heading to Valan space. The worker was accessing a maintenance panel near the main reactor. "Who is that?" Jack asked. "That's the problem, sir. He doesn't exist in our crew manifest or station records, and he's nowhere on the ship now." Jack felt a cold realization sweep over him. "Can we neutralize these nanobots?" Lisa shook her head. "Not with what we have on board. They're using technology I've never seen before. By the time we figure it out." She didn't need to finish her sentence. Back on the bridge, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Oxygen levels were dropping throughout the ship. The main reactor was now operating at just 15% capacity. Navigation systems showed them drifting off course, heading into an unmapped region of space. "Communications, keep trying emergency channels," Jack ordered. "Someone must be in range." Communications Officer Alex Foster worked frantically at his station. "Sir, I'm picking up something, but it's not on any of our frequencies." He adjusted some settings. "It's encrypted, but our systems are managing a rough translation." Jack moved to the comm station as Alex put the transmission on speaker. The voice was distinctly non-human, with a clicking quality beneath the translation. "Confirmation that the human vessel has been neutralized. Their systems are failing as planned." A second voice replied, "Excellent. The Council will be pleased. These humans advance too quickly. Another century of isolation should keep them contained until we're ready to deal with them properly. The bridge fell silent as the transmission ended. Jack looked around at his crew, seeing the same realization dawn on all their faces. "They set us up," Diane said quietly. "This whole diplomatic mission was just to get us out here alone." Jack's jaw tightened. "Communications, what's our status? Can we send a warning to Earth?" Alex shook his head. "Long-range comms are completely down, sir. Even if we could send a message, it would take weeks to reach home." "And rescue?" Jack asked, already knowing the answer. "We're off all charted routes now," Diane replied. "Even if they send ships looking for us, they won't know where to search. We're on our own." Dr. James Reynolds, the ship's medical officer, stepped onto the bridge. "Captain, at the current rate of oxygen depletion, we have approximately 72 hours of breathable air. That's assuming we can keep the scrubbers running at all." Jack stood still for a long moment, feeling the weight of 120 lives on his shoulders. Then something shifted in his expression. "Chief Reed," he called over the comm. "You said these nanobots are technology you've never seen before, correct?" "Yes, sir. Far beyond anything we have." "Then they've made a critical mistake," Jack said. "They didn't just try to kill us. They handed us their technology in the process." He turned to address the entire bridge crew. "I want every scientist and engineer on this ship working on capturing and analyzing these nanobots. If they can break our systems, we can learn how they work." "Captain," Marcus protested, "we don't have time for a research project. We need emergency repairs." "We're going to do both, Mr. Black," Jack cut him off. "Lisa, focus your team on keeping life support and basic systems running. Science teams will work on the nanobots." Jack activated the ship-wide comm. "Attention all crew of the UES Resilient. By now you know we've been attacked, sabotaged by those who invited us here under the guise of peace. They wanted to strand us here to die, to send a message that humans don't belong among the stars." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But they made one critical error. They wanted to break our ship. Fine. We'll just have to build something better. From this moment, we are not just fighting for survival. We are going to take what they used against us and turn it into our salvation. And when we're done, we're going to show them exactly what humans do when backed into a corner." As he finished speaking, Jack noticed something out the viewport. Strange patterns of light in the space they were drifting into, radiation or energy unlike anything in their charts. "Mr. Foster, record and analyze the phenomena," he ordered, pointing to the viewport. "It might be nothing, but right now we need every advantage we can find." Jack looked around the bridge at his crew, their faces showing a mixture of fear and determination. "We have 72 hours to defy death." Lisa Reed hadn't slept in 36 hours. Her hands were steady as she worked, but dark circles had formed under her eyes. The engine room of the UES Resilient had become a hive of frantic activity as crew members worked to keep the dying ship alive. "Chief, you need to see this," called Tom Wilson, her assistant engineer. He was hunched over a workbench, a captured nanobot trapped in a magnetic containment field. Lisa joined him, peering at the microscopic machine. "What am I looking at?" "It's not just destroying our systems," Tom explained, his voice rising with excitement despite their dire situation. "It's scanning them first, sending the data somewhere before it attacks." Lisa's tired mind suddenly sharpened. "They're not just trying to kill us. They're studying us." She tapped her comm badge. "Captain Morgan, we have something." On the bridge, Jack listened as Lisa explained her discovery. Oxygen levels had stabilized at 40% of normal, enough to survive, but everyone was feeling the effects. Moving was harder. Thinking was harder. "So they're gathering intelligence while they destroy us," Jack said. "Can we use that somehow?" "Maybe," Lisa replied. "The nanobots have to be communicating with each other and sending data outward. If we can crack their transmission method." "Do it," Jack ordered. "And Lisa, The quantum computer in the science lab was shielded against radiation. It might have survived the attack. Use it if you need to. As the communication ended, Jack turned to Science Officer Emma Wright. What about the energy patterns outside the ship? Any progress? Emma nodded, her movements slightly sluggish in the oxygen-thin air. It's unlike anything we've encountered before, Captain. The radiation interacts with certain metals in our hull in ways that defy our understanding of physics. It's almost like... Like what? Jack prompted when she hesitated. Like it's alive. Emma finished. Not sentient, but reactive, changing in response to our presence. Jack stared at the viewport where the strange lights pulsed outside. Could we harness it somehow? Emma blinked in surprise. I don't know. Maybe? But that would require completely redesigning our power systems. Start working on it, Jack said. Right now, impossible ideas are all we've got. In the science lab, Lisa and Tom had commandeered the quantum computer. A dozen captured nanobots were suspended in containment fields around them as the computer ran analysis protocols. This is insane, Tom muttered, staring at the results on the screen. These things operate using quantum entanglement. They're communicating instantly across space. No delay, no signal that can be blocked. Lisa leaned closer to the screen. That's technology we theorized but couldn't build yet. And look at how they manipulate energy at the subatomic level. They're not just machines. They're like tiny reality manipulators. The door slid open, and Marcus Black entered. Please tell me you have good news. Lisa looked up, a strange light in her eyes despite her exhaustion. Better than good. We've been asking the wrong question. We've been asking how to destroy these nanobots. But what we should be asking is, how do we make them work for us? Marcus frowned. What are you talking about? These machines are decades ahead of our technology, Lisa explained. But we can understand them. And if we can understand them, we can copy them. Tom finished, a slow smile spreading across his face. Captain Morgan had called an emergency meeting in the briefing room. Around the table sat his senior officers, all showing signs of fatigue, but all... Let me make sure I understand, Jack said, looking at Lisa. You think we can reprogram these nanobots? Not exactly, Lisa replied. They're too complex for that, but we can use them as templates to create our own version. The quantum computer has already mapped their basic structure. With some modifications, we could build nanobots that repair instead of destroy. And I've been analyzing that strange radiation, Emma added. It responds to electrical fields in a way that could potentially be harnessed for power. If we could develop a new kind of energy collector. How long would all this take? Jack asked. Lisa and Emma exchanged glances. Under normal circumstances. Years, Lisa admitted. But we don't have years. We have about 36 hours of oxygen left. So it's impossible, Marcus said flatly. Not impossible, Lisa countered. Just highly improbable. But we have one advantage. What's that? Diane asked. We're human, Lisa said simply. When have we ever let impossible stop us? Jack stood up, his decision made. We're not just making repairs anymore. We're rebuilding this ship from the inside out. I want every crew member with engineering or scientific knowledge working on this project. Captain, Dr. Reynolds protested. People are already exhausted from the oxygen deprivation. Pushing them harder could be dangerous. Being dead is also dangerous, Doctor, Jack replied grimly. But you're right. Set up a rotation. 4 hours on, 2 hours rest, and increase the oxygen levels in the work areas as much as possible. As the meeting broke up, Jack held back Lisa and Emma. He pulled a small object from his pocket, a smooth stone with swirling patterns. This was given to me by my grandfather, he said quietly. He flew the first manned mission to Mars. He told me that space will always find new ways to kill you, but humans will always find more creative ways to live. He placed the stone on the table between them. They gave us the knife they meant to kill us with, he said, examining the holographic model of the captured nanobots floating above the table. Let's use it to carve our way home. The next 24 hours aboard the Resilient became a blur of activity. The ship's corridors, normally neat and orderly, were now strewn with opened panels and exposed circuitry. Crew members passed tools back and forth, their conversations a mix of technical jargon and desperate brainstorming. In the engine room, Lisa had set up what she called a nanoforge, using the ship's 3D printing systems, modified with parts from the medical bay's molecular synthesizers. The quantum computer ran continuous simulations, testing and refining designs for their own nanobots. Tom had taken a different approach, stripping the propulsion system down to its most basic components and rebuilding it to interact with the strange radiation outside. His small team worked in environmental suits, making modifications to the ship's exterior hull. On the bridge, Emma coordinated the various teams, while Jack moved throughout the ship, offering encouragement and making quick decisions when different departments disagreed on priorities. By hour 30, the first batch of human-made nanobots was ready for testing. Lisa placed them on a damaged circuit board from one of the life support systems. Moment of truth, she said, activating the tiny machines. Everyone in the room held their breath as the nanobots went to work. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the microscopic machines began to move, surrounding the damaged areas of the circuit. Metal began to flow like water, components realigned, and before their eyes, the dead circuit board came back to life. Lisa looked up at Jack with exhausted triumph in her eyes. It works. For the first time in days, Jack Morgan. This isn't a repair job anymore, Lisa announced to the gathered engineering team. We're completely rebuilding the Resilient from the inside out. 5 days had passed since the sabotage. The immediate danger of suffocation had passed. Their newly created nanobots had restored basic life support to full capacity. But Captain Morgan wanted more than just survival. In the main cargo bay, now converted into their central workshop, a holographic model of the ship floated in the air. Different sections glowed with different colors, showing progress on their transformation. The navigation and propulsion systems are our priority, Lisa continued. Tom's team has made significant breakthroughs with the radiation harvesting technology. Tom stepped forward, his face tired but excited. We're calling it void energy for now. It's like nothing we've seen before. The strange radiation outside the ship responds to electrical fields, almost like it's attracted to them. We've built collectors that can pull it in and convert it to usable power. How much power? Asked Jack, who was standing at the back of the room. Tom smiled. Based on our tests, about 5 times what our original engines could produce. And that's just the beginning. A murmur of excitement rippled through the gathered crew. For the first time, they weren't just fighting for survival, they were creating something revolutionary. In the communications lab, Alex Foster worked with a small team to implement Lisa's most ambitious idea, a new communication system based on the quantum entanglement principles they discovered in the alien nanobots. If this works, Alex explained to Jack during his inspection, we'll be able to communicate instantly across any distance. No delay, no signal that can be intercepted or blocked. Will it work? Jack asked, studying the complex equipment spread across the lab tables. In theory, yes. In practice, Alex shrugged. We're doing in days what might have taken Earth decades to develop, but the principles are sound. Jack nodded thoughtfully. Keep at it. If we can send a warning to Earth about the Valen's true intentions, we'll be saving lives, Alex finished. Not everyone embraced the rapid changes. In the security office, Marcus Black voiced his concerns to the captain. We're moving too fast, he argued. These technologies haven't been properly tested. The nanobots, this void energy, we don't fully understand them yet. We don't have the luxury of time for proper testing, Jack replied. Every day we stay here increases the chance that the Valen will send ships to confirm our destruction. And what happens if these new systems fail catastrophically? Marcus pressed. What if the nanobots decide to turn against us? What if this radiation we're harvesting has unforeseen effects? Jack placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Your caution is noted and appreciated, Marcus. But sometimes the greater risk is in not taking a risk at all. In the medical bay, Dr. Reynolds had similar concerns. He showed Jack the results of his tests on crew members who had been working with the void energy. There are subtle changes in their cellular activity, he explained. Nothing harmful so far. In fact, their cells show increased energy and regenerative capabilities. But it's change, and change we don't fully understand. Jack studied the medical scans. Monitor it closely. At the first sign of actual harm, we'll reassess. Captain, the doctor said hesitantly, there's something else. The ship itself, it's changing in ways that go beyond our modifications. Explain. The nanobots are learning. They're not just following their programming anymore. They're adapting, finding more efficient ways to integrate the new systems. The ship is becoming, well, I don't have a better word for it than alive. Jack was silent for a long moment. Is it a threat? No, Reynolds said quickly. It seems more like symbiosis. The ship is responding to our needs, almost before we articulate them. Jack nodded slowly. Then we'll continue. But keep watching, Doctor. Keep watching very carefully. By the 10th day, the transformation was nearly complete. The UES Resilient didn't just look different, it felt different. The walls hummed with energy. Lights responded to crew members' presence without commands. The ship moved through space with a grace it had never possessed before. On the bridge, Jack called a meeting of his senior officers to discuss their next steps. The void energy propulsion system is fully operational, Lisa reported. Based on our calculations, we could reach Earth in a fraction of the time it would have taken with our original engines. The quantum communication system is online as well, Alex added. We've sent test signals. Our defensive capabilities have exceeded all expectations, Marcus said, his earlier caution now tempered with amazement. The energy shields derived from the void radiation can withstand impacts and energy weapons far beyond anything we previously could handle. And the ship itself is becoming more responsive, Emma noted. The integration of our nanobots throughout all systems has created a kind of distributed intelligence. Not exactly an AI, but something new. Jack took in all the information, then stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, the strange radiation patterns danced around the ship like living light. We came out here to establish first contact with the Valen, he said quietly. Instead, we've achieved something far more significant, the next evolution of human space travel. He turned back to his officers. I believe it's time we give this ship a new name to match its new nature. From this moment on, we are no longer the UES Resilient. What shall we call her, Captain? Asked Diane. Jack smiled. Phoenix. The UES Phoenix, because we have risen from our own destruction. What's our course, sir? The navigation officer asked. Jack considered for a moment. The logical choice was to return to Earth immediately with their revolutionary technology and warning about the Valen threat. But something else tugged at him, a sense that their journey wasn't complete yet. Set a course that will intercept the Valen patrol routes, he finally decided. Before we go home, I want the people who tried to kill us to see exactly what they created instead. A tense silence fell over the bridge. Then, one by one, the officers nodded in agreement. Engage the void drive, Jack ordered. Let's show the galaxy what happens when you try to eliminate humanity. The ship, now the UES Phoenix, hummed with power. The new engines glowed with unearthly light, drawing in the surrounding radiation. Then, in a flash of brilliance that would have been impossible just days before, the Phoenix leaped forward into the darkness, faster than any human vessel had ever traveled. They weren't running home to safety. They were flying toward their would-be killers, not for revenge, but for justice and recognition. The message was clear. Humanity would not be confined, contained, or eliminated. They would simply adapt, evolve. Multiple ships detected at the edge of our sensor range, announced Emma from her science station. Configuration matches Valen warships. It had been 2 days since the Phoenix had set course for the Valen patrol routes. The ship had performed beyond all expectations, its new void energy drive carrying them smoothly through space at speeds that would have been impossible before. Captain Jack Morgan stood from his command chair and moved to the main view screen. How many? 5 vessels, Captain. One appears to be a command ship, significantly larger than the others. Jack turned to Alex at the communication station. Are they transmitting anything? Alex adjusted controls on his panel. Yes, sir. Internal communications only, but our quantum receivers are picking them up. He paused, listening through his earpiece. They're talking about us, Captain. About the human problem. They're coming to verify our destruction. A tense silence fell over the bridge. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the confrontation with those who had tried to eliminate them. But now that it was here, Jack felt a flutter of doubt. Were they ready? Lisa's voice came over the comm system from engineering. Captain, the Phoenix is responding to the Valen presence. Power levels are rising automatically in defensive systems. The ship is protecting itself, Diane murmured. Jack nodded. Let's not rush in. Emma, can we mask our energy signature? Make ourselves look like debris or a natural phenomenon? Emma worked quickly at her console. The void energy naturally distorts sensor readings. With some adjustments, yes, I believe we can appear as nothing more than space debris. Do it, Jack ordered. Let's see what they have to say about us when they think we can't hear them. The Phoenix hung silently in space, its systems powered down to minimal levels, its energy signature disguised. The 5 Valen warships moved closer, their sleek, angular forms cutting through the darkness like predatory fish. On the bridge, the crew waited in near darkness, only essential systems running. Alex listened intently to the Valen communications, relaying them in whispers to the captain. The lead ship is Commander Thax's vessel. He's ordering the others to spread out in a search pattern. They're looking for confirmation of our destruction. Jack's expression hardened. This Commander Thax was clearly one of those responsible for the sabotage plot. They're discussing debris patterns, Alex continued. They expected to find more substantial remains of our ship. Little do they know, Tom whispered from his station. The largest Valen ship passed within 1,000 kilometers of the Phoenix, close enough that they could see it clearly on their view screen. It was an impressive vessel, its hull covered in what appeared to be weapon ports and sensor arrays. Incoming transmission from the Valen command ship to their fleet. Alex reported. Decoding now. He put it on the bridge speakers, the translation system converting the alien language to English. This sector is clear, came a cold, precise voice. The human vessel must have drifted further than anticipated. Continue the search pattern. We must. A second voice responded. Commander Thax, sensors are detecting unusual energy patterns in this sector. It could be residue from their reactor breach. Investigate it, ordered the first voice, but maintain caution. If any portion of their ship remains intact, destroy it. The humans cannot be allowed to establish a presence in this part of space. Their technological development is already proceeding faster than anticipated. Jack turned to Marcus at the security station. Record everything. We need evidence of their intentions. Marcus nodded grimly, his fingers moving over his console. Another transmission, Alex announced. This one is different. It's coming from one of the smaller ships. The new voice sounded younger, with a note of confusion. Commander, I've reviewed the diplomatic directives from the Council. There's no mention of eliminating the human vessel. Our orders were to observe and report only. A tense pause followed. Captain Nirok, Commander Thax replied with obvious irritation. Your ship was included in this mission because of your technical expertise, not to question orders. The full directive from the High Council is classified. You will follow my commands without further discussion. That's interesting, Jack murmured. Not everyone in their fleet knows the truth about this mission. Sir, Emma called urgently from her station. One of their scout ships is approaching our position. They're using active scans. If they get much closer, our camouflage won't hold. Jack made his decision instantly. Alex, establish a quantum link to Captain Niruk's ship only. Lisa, bring power systems to full readiness, but don't engage yet. Captain, Marcus protested, we should maintain our cover until... They're going to find us anyway. Jack cut him off. I want to control how that happens. Alex worked frantically at his station. Quantum link established to the smaller Valen vessel. Channel open. Jack took a deep breath. Captain Niruk of the Valen fleet. This is Captain Jack Morgan of the Earth vessel Phoenix. We know the truth about your mission here. We have recorded Commander Thax's orders regarding our elimination. There was no immediate response, just a long silence. Then, human vessel, how are you still functioning? Our sensors showed catastrophic system failures throughout your ship. We adapted, Jack replied simply. We survived your sabotage, Captain Niruk. And in doing so, we discovered things about ourselves, and about the Valen leadership, that we never would have known otherwise. Another voice broke in, the cold, precise tones of Commander Thax. All vessels, battle formations. The human ship has somehow survived. Destroy it immediately. Jack could hear alarms blaring in the background of Niruk's transmission. Human captain, you must flee. You cannot withstand our weapons. We're not running, Jack said firmly. But we're not here for revenge either. We want the truth to be known. Your commander acted without full council approval, didn't he? Not all Valen want war with humanity. Before Niruk could respond, Emma shouted from her station. Energy buildup on the Valen command ship. They're charging weapons. Lisa, Jack called over the comm. Time to show them what Phoenix can do. The ship hummed to life around them, void energy flowing through its systems. The lighting returned to normal, and displays showed power levels rising far beyond their original specifications. Defensive shields at maximum, Marcus reported. New weapon systems online. The Valen command ship fired, a beam of intense energy slashing across space toward the Phoenix. It struck the shields and dissipated harmlessly, absorbed by the void energy field surrounding the ship. A collective gasp went up from the bridge crew. Their shields had worked even better than the simulations predicted. Our turn, Jack said quietly. Target their weapon systems only. Minimal power. We're making a point, not starting a war. Marcus entered the commands, and the Phoenix responded. A pulse of concentrated void energy shot from the ship, striking the Valen command vessel with surgical precision. Their main weapon port went dark immediately. Their weapons are offline, Marcus reported with satisfaction. No other damage to their ship. Open a channel to all Valen vessels, Jack ordered. When Alex nodded that the channel was open, Jack spoke clearly and calmly. This is Captain Jack Morgan of the UES Phoenix. We were invited to your space for diplomatic talks. Instead, we were sabotaged and left to die. But what your leadership didn't understand is that humanity doesn't break when faced with destruction. We transform. He paused, letting his words sink in. We have disabled your weapons as a demonstration, not as an act of war. We are transmitting evidence of Commander Thax's true orders regarding our elimination. Review it for yourselves. Then decide what kind of relationship the Valen truly want with humanity. As he finished speaking, the Phoenix's sensors detected new energy readings from the Valen fleet. Two of the smaller ships, including Captain Niruk's, were powering down their weapons. The other two remained in attack formation around the command. The bridge of the Phoenix was silent as the crew watched the Valen fleet split into two groups. Captain Niruk's ship and one other had moved away from Commander Thax's vessels, clearly distancing themselves from his actions. "Sir," Alex reported from communications, "we're receiving a transmission from Captain Nirok." Jack nodded. On screen, the main view screen flickered to life, showing the alien captain. The Valen were humanoid, but with striking differences. Iridescent blue skin, large eyes with horizontal pupils, and bony ridges where hair would be on a human. "Captain Morgan," Nirok said, his voice translated through the ship's systems. "My crew and I have reviewed your evidence. Commander Thax acted without full council approval. This sabotage was not authorized." Jack studied the alien carefully. "And yet it happened. Your people tried to kill mine." Nirok lowered his gaze in what seemed like a gesture of shame. "Yes, and for that, there is no adequate apology. But you should know that Thax represents only one faction among our leadership, those who fear your kind's rapid advancement." "Captain," Marcus called out suddenly, "the command ship is powering up secondary weapons." Before Jack could respond, a barrage of energy blasts shot from Thax's vessel toward the Phoenix. The ship's shields flared bright with absorbed energy, but held firm. The other two Valen ships in Thax's group also opened fire. "No damage," Lisa reported from engineering. "Our shields are actually growing stronger. They're adapting to the attack patterns and frequencies." Jack's expression hardened. "Return fire. Target their propulsion systems this time." The Phoenix responded instantly, void energy weapons striking all three attacking ships with precision. Their engines flared and went dark, leaving them drifting in space. "They're disabled but intact," Marcus confirmed. "Life support and basic systems still functioning." Jack turned back to the still open communication with Nirok. "We could have destroyed them. Remember that." Nirok nodded slowly. "Your restraint is unexpected. And your technology, it far exceeds our understanding of human capabilities." "That's the point you missed," Jack replied. "Humans don't advance on a predictable timeline. When pushed, we leap forward. You tried to eliminate us because you feared our potential. But in doing so, you only accelerated what might have taken us decades to achieve on our own." A new transmission cut in. Commander Thax, his face contorted with rage. "This changes nothing. The Council will send more ships. Your single vessel, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against our entire fleet." Jack simply smiled. "We don't need to." "Alex, send the package." Alex tapped a series of commands on his console. Quantum data package transmitted to all Valen worlds and outposts. "What have you done?" Thax demanded. "We've shared everything," Jack explained calmly. "The evidence of your unauthorized sabotage. The schematics of our new technology, not detailed enough to replicate, but enough to prove what we've accomplished. And most importantly, our offer of peaceful cooperation despite your attempt to destroy us." Thax's face paled to a lighter blue. "You can't have transmitted to all our worlds simultaneously. The distances. Instant communication across any distance." Jack cut him off. "Just one of the things we learned from studying your nanobots. Your sabotage gave us the keys to technologies your people are still developing." Nirok's voice came back over the comm. "Captain Morgan, I am receiving messages from the High Council. They are disturbed by the evidence. Commander Thax is ordered to stand down immediately." On the view screen, they could see Thax's ship powering down its remaining weapons. The commander's face showed a mixture of disbelief and defeat. "What happens now?" Jack asked. "The Council requests a proper diplomatic meeting," Nirok replied. "They are sending representatives not associated with Thax's faction. They offer safe passage and formal recognition of Earth as an independent power." Jack looked around at his crew. Each face showed the same mixture of pride and caution. "We accept," Jack said finally. "But the meeting will take place on neutral ground, not on a Valen world. And as a show of good faith, I expect Commander Thax to face consequences for his actions." "Agreed," Narok said. "I will personally ensure." 3 days later, the Phoenix hovered near a small neutral outpost that served as a trading hub for several species. In a large meeting chamber, Captain Morgan and his senior officers sat across from 5 Valen Council representatives. Commander Fax was notably absent, having been removed from his position and detained pending a formal inquiry. "We misjudged humanity," admitted the lead counselor, an elderly Valen with deep blue skin. "Or rather, some among us did. We saw your rapid technological advancement as a threat rather than an opportunity. It nearly became a self-fulfilling prophecy," Jack pointed out. "By trying to eliminate us, you forced us to advance even faster." The counselor nodded. "A lesson we have learned at great cost. The technology your ship now possesses, particularly the void energy manipulation and quantum communication, is beyond even our most advanced theoretical research." "Which brings us to the main point of these talks," Diane said. "You wanted to contain humanity because you feared our potential. Now that potential has been realized ahead of schedule, where does that leave us?" The counselors exchanged glances before their leader spoke again. "It leaves us with a choice: continue down the path of fear and competition, which would likely lead to conflict, or forge a new path of cooperation and mutual advancement." "And which do you choose?" Jack asked simply. "We choose cooperation," the counselor replied. "Not just because we have seen your capabilities, but because we have seen your character. You could have destroyed Thax's ships. You could have used your new technology to threaten our worlds. Instead, you showed restraint and offered peace despite our aggression." Jack smiled slightly. "That's the other thing you misjudged about humanity. We're not just adaptable and inventive. We genuinely prefer friends to enemies." The lead counselor extended a 4-fingered hand across the table. "Then let us be friends, Captain Morgan. There is much our peoples can learn from each other." As Jack shook the alien's hand, he felt the weight of the moment. What had begun as a simple diplomatic mission, turned into a fight for survival, had now come full circle, but with humanity entering the galactic community not as newcomers to be watched and contained, but as equals to be respected. 1 month later, the Phoenix returned to Earth orbit. As the blue-green planet filled the view screen, the crew gathered on the bridge for Jack's address. "We left Earth in a ship that represented the best of human technology," Jack said, looking around at the faces of his crew. "We return in a vessel that represents something far greater, the best of the human spirit, our adaptability, our resilience, our ability to transform disaster into opportunity." He gestured to the viewport, where Earth hung like a jewel against the blackness of space. "What we bring back will change everything, not just technology, but a new understanding of our place in the galaxy. The Valen tried to keep us confined to our corner of space because they feared what we might become." Jack smiled. "They were right to be afraid, but not because we're a threat. Because when humanity reaches for the stars, we don't just adapt to the universe. We transform it." The 5 humans stood in the great waiting hall of Centaurus Station, their faces turned upward at the massive dome of swirling stars above them. Ambassador James Reed adjusted his formal blue uniform for the 10th time in an hour. After decades of preparation, humanity's moment had finally come. "Stop fidgeting, James," said Dr. Anna Reyes, the science advisor. "You're making us all nervous." Reed forced his hands to his sides. "Sorry. Hard to believe we're finally here, representing all of Earth." Captain Marcus Foster, their military escort, kept his eyes on the alien guards positioned around the chamber. "Just remember the plan. Be respectful, be confident, and don't show fear." The waiting hall was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Tall, slender aliens with blue skin spoke in musical tones. Bulky reptilian creatures surveyed the room with multiple eyes. Small hovering orbs of light pulsed in patterns near the ceiling. "Look at them all," whispered Lisa Chen, the cultural liaison. "Hundreds of species, living and working together. And today, we join them." The 5th member of their team, Technical Director Omar Patel tapped notes into his handheld device. Assuming they vote yes, the Council has rejected 17 species in the last century alone. Reed shook his head. That won't happen to us. Earth has achieved every benchmark they set. Clean energy, unified government, peaceful colonies on Mars and Luna, and our warp drive technology is already compatible with Council standards. A chime sounded through the hall, and the massive doors at the far end slid open. A tall, thin alien with crystalline skin approached them. The Luminar, Lisa whispered, one of the founding Council species. The crystalline being bowed slightly. The Council will now hear Earth's petition. Follow me. The 5 humans walked behind the Luminar through the grand doors into the Council chamber. The circular room stretched upward for what seemed like hundreds of meters, with seating arranged in rising tiers. Representatives from dozens of species watched as the humans entered. At the center of the room stood a circular platform. The Luminar gestured toward it. Present your case there, humans. Reed took a deep breath and stepped onto the platform. A beam of light enveloped him, and his image was projected throughout the chamber. He began the speech he had practiced for months. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you representing the United Earth Government and all of humanity. For 2 centuries, we have watched the stars, knowing we were not alone. For decades, we have worked to meet your standards for admission. Today, we come before you as equals, ready to join this great community of species. Reed spoke for 20 minutes, detailing Earth's achievements, its peaceful unification after the resource wars, the environmental restoration projects, and the flourishing colonies across the solar system. He showed holographic images of Earth's cities, now green and sustainable, of the underwater habitats in Earth's oceans, and the magnificent domes of New Armstrong City on Luna. When he finished, there was silence. Then, from the highest tier, a being with dark, swirling skin that seemed to contain tiny stars spoke. A Voidborn, one of the telepathic elder races. We have reviewed your submission, Ambassador Reed. We have studied your species extensively. Reed smiled. Then you know we are ready to join the galactic community. The Voidborn's voice grew cold. We know that humanity is dangerously unpredictable. Your history is stained with warfare and destruction. You claim peace, yet your military budgets remain substantial. You speak of unity, yet cultural divisions persist. Reed's smile faded. With respect, every species has a troubled past. We have learned from ours and grown beyond it. A different council member, a being with 6 arms and insect-like features, raised a limb. The human brain still contains primitive structures that trigger aggression. Your species reaches for the stars while still carrying the instincts of planet-bound predators. That's not fair. Dr. Reyes stepped forward. Our biology doesn't determine our destiny. We've proven that through centuries of progress. The chamber erupted in murmurs. The Luminar raised a crystalline hand. The human delegate will respect council protocol. Only the designated ambassador may speak. Reed felt sweat forming on his brow. This wasn't going as planned. Council members, I ask that you judge us on our actions, not on theoretical concerns about our nature. The Voidborn spoke again. We have deliberated extensively before your arrival. The decision is made. A holographic display appeared above the chamber. Symbols representing each council species appeared, all glowing red. The council vote is unanimous. Earth's petition for membership is denied. Reed stood in shock. Unanimous. But we weren't even given a chance to address your concerns. The council's wisdom spans millennia, human. We have seen species like yours before. The risks outweigh the benefits of your admission. Captain Foster stepped forward. This is outrageous. At least give us the courtesy of a proper hearing. Security drones moved closer to the human delegation. The Luminar's voice hardened. Earth is to remain isolated within its solar system. Limited trade with approved council worlds will continue under supervision. In time, perhaps centuries, your petition may be reconsidered. Reed struggled to maintain his composure. And if we don't accept these terms? The chamber darkened slightly. The Voidborn's star-flecked skin pulsed. Any unauthorized expansion beyond your system will be considered an act of aggression against the Council. We have the means to enforce our boundaries. Ambassador, do not test us. Within an hour, the human delegation was escorted back to their ship. As they departed Centaurus Station, they sat in stunned silence on the bridge, watching the massive structure shrink in the view screen. What do we do now? Lisa finally asked. Reed stared at the stars. We go home and tell our people the truth. The door to the galaxy has been slammed in our face. 3 days later, United Earth President Maria Torres stood before the Global Assembly in New Geneva. Billions watched the broadcast across Earth and its colonies. Today, I must share difficult news. The Galactic Council has denied our petition for membership. She paused as shocked murmurs swept through the assembly. They have ordered us to remain confined to our solar system, claiming our species is too unpredictable, too dangerous to join their community. Torres' expression hardened, but we will not accept their judgment as final. If the existing order of the galaxy has no place for humanity, then we will create our own place among the stars. The assembly erupted in cheers and applause. Today, I am authorizing the formation of the Pathfinder Initiative. Our best ships, our brightest minds, will venture beyond Council space to the unexplored regions they have deemed too dangerous to settle. We will forge our own path, make our own allies, and build our own future. Torres looked directly into the camera, her eyes burning with determination. The Council believes they have contained us. They are wrong. They have merely redirected us, and they will soon discover that humanity, when faced with a closed door, doesn't just knock louder. We build our own house. As the speech ended, Reed watched from the back of the hall. For the first time since leaving Centaurus Station, he smiled. The Council had made a critical mistake. They had given humanity something more powerful than acceptance. They had given them something to prove. 5 years after Earth's rejection from the Galactic Council, the deep space exploration vessel Pathfinder drifted silently at the edge of what the Council called the Dark Sectors. Commander Thomas Walker stood on the bridge, looking out at the swirling space anomalies that marked the boundary. Behind these strange energy formations lay vast regions of unexplored space, regions the Council races avoided. Status report, Walker said, his voice steady despite the tension on the bridge. Lieutenant Ben Morris checked his screens. All systems normal, Commander. The stealth systems are working perfectly. No sign of Council patrols. Walker nodded. Dr. Morgan, are you ready? Dr. Eliza Morgan looked up from her station, where complex equations flowed across multiple screens. Her eyes showed both excitement and doubt. As ready as we'll ever be, she said. The stabilizers should work in theory, but no one has ever tried to pass through these anomalies before. Walker walked to the center of the bridge. The Council thinks these anomalies are too dangerous to cross. They've used them as natural barriers to keep species contained. But today, we prove them wrong. He turned to the communications officer. Last message to Earth. Received and acknowledged, sir. President Torres sends her regards and says, make history. Walker took a deep breath. Helm, take us in, 1/4 power. Activate the Morgan stabilizers. The Pathfinder moved forward slowly. As they approached the swirling energy barrier, 4 large panels extended from the ship's hull. Blue energy flowed from the panels, reaching out toward the anomalies. Where the energies met, the chaotic patterns of the anomaly began to smooth and organize. It's working, Dr. Morgan said, her voice rising with excitement. The stabilizers are creating a path. The ship shuddered as it entered the anomaly. Lights flickered across the bridge. Warning alarms sounded briefly, then fell silent. Hull integrity holding, Morris reported. All systems functioning within normal parameters. For 3 tense minutes, the Pathfinder pushed through the energy barrier. The view screen showed only swirling patterns of light. Then, suddenly, the chaos cleared, and new stars spread out before them. "We're through," Walker said quietly. Then louder, "We're through. Navigation, confirm our position." The bridge erupted in cheers. Humans had just crossed a barrier that had stopped the council races for thousands of years. Scanning nearby systems, the science officer announced, "Commander, you're not going to believe this. We've got multiple habitable planets within range. The closest is just 2 days away at standard speed." Walker smiled. "Set course. Let's see what the council has been missing." 2 months later, Walker stood on the surface of a green, vibrant world that humanity had named New Dawn. Around him, prefabricated structures of the first human outpost beyond council space were being assembled. The air was sweet and clean, filled with the sense of alien vegetation that remarkably resembled Earth's forests. Dr. Morgan approached, carrying a tablet. "The soil tests came back perfect," she said. "We can grow Earth crops here with minimal adaptation. And the local plants. Some contain compounds that could revolutionize medicine." Walker looked up at the blue-green sky where 3 small moons were visible even in daylight. A paradise, hidden behind a curtain of energy that scared away the council for centuries. "And not just this world," Morgan added. "The survey teams have found 2 more habitable planets in nearby systems, and the minerals in the asteroid belts. We've detected elements the council considers rare and precious." Walker's communicator beeped. "Commander, you need to see this," came the urgent voice of Security Chief Alex Rivera. Walker and Morgan hurried to the outpost perimeter, where Rivera waited with a small team of security personnel. They were watching a clearing in the nearby forest. "We detected movement," Rivera explained. "At first we thought it was just local wildlife. But then, from the trees emerged a group of beings unlike any humans had seen before. They walked on 4 legs, with bodies covered in short blue fur. Their upper torsos were more humanoid, with 4 arms ending in delicate, 6-fingered hands. Their heads were elongated with large, gentle eyes. They'd been watching us for days," Rivera said. "They just now decided to show themselves." Walker stepped forward slowly, hands raised to show he carried no weapons. "First contact," he whispered. "And the council has no idea." The leader of the aliens mimicked Walker's gesture, raising 2 of its 4 hands. 6 months later, the human presence in the dark sectors had grown dramatically. New Dawn now hosted a thriving settlement of over 500 people. The native species, who called themselves the Nilari, had proven peaceful and curious. They possessed no space travel technology, but had a rich culture and advanced understanding of their world's ecosystem. More importantly, Dr. Morgan had made a breakthrough that changed everything. In a secure lab near the center of the settlement, she demonstrated her invention to Walker and a team from Earth. "The Council monitors all standard faster-than-light communications," she explained. "But by using principles we discovered studying the anomalies, we've created a completely new communication system." She activated a device on the table. A holographic display appeared, showing President Torres back on Earth. "The signal is instantaneous," Morgan continued proudly, "and completely undetectable by Council technology. We can coordinate our entire expansion without them knowing." Torres's image smiled. "Excellent work, Dr. Morgan. Commander Walker, your reports have exceeded our highest hopes. The Council thought they could contain humanity within our solar system. Instead, they pushed us toward our greatest adventure." Walker nodded. "And we're just getting started, Madam President. We've made contact with traders from the outer Council worlds. There are many species who resent Council restrictions. Some have already expressed interest in joining our settlement." "Then proceed with the next phase," Torres said. "Establish more outposts. Invite those who wish to join us." The Council created barriers meant to contain us, not realizing they were actually protecting the resources we would need to build something new. After the transmission ended, Walker walked to the window of the command center. In the distance, human engineers worked alongside Nilari builders, combining their knowledge to create structures that blended the best of both cultures. "They banned us from their council," he said quietly. "So we're building our own future." Morgan joined him at the window. "And based on what we've seen so far, it might be better than anything they have." A week later, the first Council patrol ship discovered a human trading post near the edge of the dark sectors. When they attempted to shut it down by force, they discovered their weapons and engines mysteriously failed when faced with technology derived from the very anomalies they had feared for so long. The message was clear: humanity would not be contained. Their path to the stars would not be blocked. Their empire was just beginning. 10 years had passed since humanity's first steps into the dark sectors. What began as a single outpost on New Dawn had grown into a network of 27 thriving colonies across 15 star systems. Admiral Thomas Walker, promoted from his former rank of commander, stood in the Grand Meeting Hall on New Dawn, now a bustling city of 30,000 humans and nearly as many aliens from various species. "They're ready for you, Admiral," said his aide, Lieutenant Emma Santos. Walker straightened his uniform and entered the circular chamber where representatives from 12 different species waited. Some faces were familiar. The blue-furred Nilari, the first aliens humans had encountered beyond the anomalies. Others were newer allies: the insect-like Kareth with their compound eyes and delicate wings, the bulky rock-skinned Trell, and the Forge units, mechanical beings who had broken free from their creators in Council space. "Friends," Walker began. 10 years ago, humans arrived here as explorers, rejected by the Galactic Council. Today, we gather as partners in the greatest opportunity of our lifetimes. He activated the holographic display in the center of the room, showing the mapped regions of the dark sectors. Blue dots represented established colonies, green showed resource-rich systems, and red marked the boundaries with Council space. "The Council believes they contained us," Walker continued. "Instead, they pushed us towards something remarkable. Together, we have built communities where each species contributes equally. We trade fairly. We share knowledge freely. We defend each other without question." The representative of the Kareth, a female named Varric, raised one of her 4 arms. "What exactly are you proposing, Admiral?" Walker smiled. "I propose we formalize what we've already built, a frontier alliance where all member species have equal voice regardless of their age, technology level, or population size. Unlike the Council, we will have no senior members who control the votes of others." Murmurs of approval spread through the chamber. The Council's strict hierarchy had long been a source of frustration for many species. "The humans offer this in good faith?" asked Gronth, the massive Trull representative. "Even though your technology currently leads our colonies in many areas." "Especially because of that," Walker answered. "Earth remembers what it feels like to be dismissed as too young or too unstable to have a voice. We won't repeat the Council's mistakes." A Forge unit stepped forward, its metal body gleaming under the chamber lights. "What will be our response if the Council discovers the full extent of our alliance? They have already attempted to disrupt our trading posts." Walker's expression grew more serious. "We will defend our borders but avoid unnecessary conflict. Our goal isn't war with the Council, but to build something better beyond their reach." The discussions continued for hours, with representatives raising concerns, suggesting amendments, and finally reaching agreement. By the meeting's end, the Frontier Alliance was born, with its founding charter signed by representatives of all 12 species. 6 months after the Alliance's formation, Dr. Eliza Morgan led Walker through her newest laboratory on New Dawn. Now serving as the Alliance's chief science director, Morgan had assembled a team of researchers from every member species. "The results are better than we ever imagined," she explained excitedly. "By combining human adaptive thinking with Kareth biological engineering and Forge unit quantum computing, we've developed technologies the Council won't achieve for centuries." Walker looked at the various projects underway in the massive facility. Nilari botanists worked alongside human geneticists to develop crops that could thrive on multiple worlds. Trell engineers and Forge units collaborated on mining equipment that could operate in environments previously considered too hostile. "This is the real strength of the Alliance," Walker observed. "The Council keeps species separated in a hierarchy. We bring them together as equals." Morgan nodded. "And speaking of breakthroughs, there's something you need to see." She led him to a secure section of the lab where a team worked around a biological containment unit. Inside, microscopic organisms glowed with faint blue light. "3 days ago, we received a distress signal from the Peleos system. Council space," Morgan said. "They're suffering from a pandemic that has already killed millions. The Council's response has been tied up in bureaucracy for weeks while they debate the political implications of various medical interventions." Walker frowned. "What does this have to do with us?" One of our Kareth researchers recognized the disease description. Something similar affected their colony centuries ago. With their biological knowledge and our advanced computing systems, we've synthesized a cure. She gestured to the glowing organisms. "These engineered phages will eliminate the pathogen without harming the host." Walker considered this information carefully. The Peleos system is well within Council territory. Sending aid would reveal much about our capabilities. It would also save millions of lives, Morgan countered, and show the galaxy what kind of neighbors we choose to be. 2 weeks later, a fleet of unmarked medical ships arrived in the Peleos system. They transmitted a simple message: "We bring medicine for your sick. No payment required. No political conditions attached." When questioned about their origins, the crews simply identified themselves as representatives of the Frontier Alliance. They delivered the cure, trained local medical teams in its use, and departed before Council military vessels could arrive to investigate. Within a month, the pandemic was contained. Word spread quickly through Council space about the mysterious alliance that had provided aid when the Council had only offered committees and deliberation. In his office on New Dawn, Walker received the reports with satisfaction. On his display screen, President Torres smiled from her office on Earth. The medical mission was a success on every level, Walker reported. Millions saved, and countless more now questioning Council propaganda about dangerous human expansion. Torres nodded. "And our other initiatives?" "The Alliance grows stronger each day," Walker replied. 3 more species have petitioned to join, including the Vexari, who previously had observer status on the Council, but were never granted full rights. "And our defenses?" Walker's expression grew more serious. "Our early warning systems show increased Council patrol activity near our borders. They're concerned, but still underestimate our capabilities. The Alliance Defense Fleet now includes ships from all member species, with integrated technologies that work seamlessly together." Torres leaned forward. "The Council rejected us because they feared what humanity might become. In pushing us away, they created exactly what they feared most, not just humans expanding through space, but humans bringing together others who were also overlooked and underestimated. There's a saying that's become popular in the colony worlds," Walker said with a slight smile. "Earth was banned from the Council, so they made their own empire. But what we're building isn't an empire in the old sense. There are no subjects, only partners." Torres nodded. "Let's keep it that way, Admiral. That's our true strength, and the Council's greatest miscalculation." As the communication ended, Walker looked out his window at the bustling city below, where humans worked and lived alongside a dozen alien species. The Council had tried to isolate humanity from the galactic community. Instead, they had set it free to create a new one. 20 years after Earth's rejection, the Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. High Chancellor Vex of the Luminar pounded his crystalline fist against the speaking platform, sending shimmering ripples across his translucent skin. "The human problem can no longer be ignored," he declared to the assembled representatives. "What began as a minor irritant has grown into an existential threat to Council authority." Holographic displays around the chamber showed maps of the so-called Frontier Alliance territory. Over 200 star systems, spanning what had once been considered uninhabitable space. Trade routes connected Alliance worlds to the outer regions of Council space, and the influence of this upstart coalition grew daily. The humans were warned to remain in their home system, Vex continued. Instead, they have created an empire that now rivals our central worlds in industrial output. Worse, they spread dangerous ideas about equality between elder and younger species. A representative of the Voidborn, their skin containing swirling galaxies, rose to speak. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The Alliance provided aid during the Peleos pandemic when our response was delayed. Many Council worlds now view them favorably. Precisely why they must be contained now. Vex countered. They undermine our authority through these gestures. The Council has maintained galactic order for 10,000 years by ensuring proper hierarchy between species. The human notion that all voices deserve equal weight is dangerous chaos. After hours of heated debate, the Council voted. The decision was not unanimous, a rarity in Council proceedings, but the majority approved military action to contain the human-led rebellion and re-establish Council authority in the contested regions. On the Alliance border world of Threshold Point, Admiral Walker received the intelligence report with grim determination. The largest Council armada ever assembled was approaching Alliance space, over 200 warships with enough firepower to reduce entire planets to ash. In the command center of the Alliance Defense Station, representatives from each member species gathered around the strategic display. Walker studied the incoming Council fleet formation. They still think like conquerors, he observed. Their ships are positioned to maximize firepower against planetary targets, not for space combat with our fleet. Varric, now the Kareth High Commander, clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. The Council believes this show of force will cause our alliance to fracture. They expect the non-human members to abandon your leadership when faced with the Council's might. Walker nodded. That's been their mistake from the beginning. They see everything through the lens of dominance and submission. He turned to face the gathered representatives. I won't order anyone to fight. Each member world must decide for themselves. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Gronth, the massive Trell, stepped forward. The Trell remember 1,000 years under Council rule. We were allowed to mine our worlds for resources, but never to use those resources for our own advancement. The Alliance has given us 20 years of true partnership. We stand with humans. One by one, each representative pledged their support. The Forge units, the Nilari, the Kareth, and a dozen others, all chose to stand together. Walker activated the communication system. All Alliance vessels, this is Admiral Walker. The Council fleet will reach Threshold Point in 36 hours. Our mission is defensive only. I repeat, defensive only. We protect our borders, but do not seek to destroy our opponents. The Battle of Threshold Point began at dawn, as measured on New Dawn. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their massive dreadnoughts at the center surrounded by layers of supporting cruisers and fighters. Facing them was the combined Frontier Defense Fleet, ships of every shape and size, designed by different species, but integrated into a cohesive force. At the center was the Defiance, Admiral Walker's flagship, built with technology from all Alliance members. Walker stood on the bridge, watching the Council fleet approach on the main viewer. Send the message, he ordered. The communications officer nodded. Broadcasting on all frequencies, sir. Walker's voice transmitted to every Council vessel. This is Admiral Thomas Walker of the Frontier Alliance. Your fleet has entered Sovereign Alliance space. We request you withdraw immediately to avoid unnecessary conflict. We have no desire for war with the Council. The response came from High Chancellor Vex himself, his crystalline face filling the view screen. This is not sovereign space, human. These regions belong to the Council by historical right. Your illegal colonies will be dismantled, and your ships escorted back to your home system as originally decreed. Walker shook his head. We built homes here. We made friends here. We created something new here. We will defend it. Vex's expression hardened. Then you will face the consequences of your defiance. The Council fleet opened fire, thousands of energy weapons lighting up the blackness of space. But instead of striking Alliance ships, the beams encountered a defensive barrier unlike anything the Council had seen before, a modification of the same technology humans had developed to pass through the dark sector anomalies. "Stabilizer shields holding," reported the Forge Unit Tactical Officer. "Council weapons operating at 30% effectiveness." Walker nodded. "Execute defense pattern Alpha. Remember, disable, don't destroy." The Alliance fleet moved with unexpected coordination. Smaller ships darted between the massive Council vessels, firing precisely calibrated pulses that disrupted their targeting systems. Larger Alliance cruisers fired specialized weapons that disabled Council engines without breaching hulls. On the Council flagship, Vex watched in growing horror as his supposedly superior fleet was systematically immobilized. "Impossible," he whispered as another dreadnought lost power. 3 hours into the battle, over half the Council fleet hung powerless in space. Not a single ship had been destroyed, but they could neither fight nor flee. Walker opened a channel to all vessels. "Council ships, your vessels have been disabled but not damaged. Your life support remains operational. We will now begin rescue operations for any crew requiring medical assistance." Alliance medical ships moved among the disabled Council vessels, providing aid to injured crew members. The Council commanders, trained to expect either victory or death, were confused by this approach. On his flagship, Vex received reports of Alliance medics treating Council wounded with the same care as their own. "Why?" he demanded. "Why not destroy us while they have the advantage?" The Voidborn counselor beside him watched the rescue operations on the view screen. "Perhaps because their goal was never conquest. They truly are building something different." The battle's outcome was broadcast across both Alliance and Council networks. Citizens throughout Council space watched as the supposedly dangerous Alliance forces saved the lives of their defeated opponents. Walker stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the rescue operations. Lieutenant Santos approached with a data tablet. "Sir, we're receiving signals from 17 worlds in Council space," she reported. "They're requesting information about joining the Alliance." Walker nodded, unsurprised. The Council tried to maintain control through fear and hierarchy. "We showed the galaxy another way is possible." As Alliance ships began towing disabled Council vessels to neutral space for repairs, Walker sent a final message to High Chancellor Vex. "We will continue to defend our borders, but we remain open to peaceful dialogue whenever the Council is ready. The future of the galaxy shouldn't be decided through force, but through cooperation." The Battle of Threshold Point was over. The confrontation the Council had planned for 20 years had lasted mere hours, and though they didn't yet realize it, the Council's defeat marked the beginning of their transformation. 25 years after Earth's rejection from the Galactic Council, Ambassador James Reed stepped carefully from his transport onto the landing platform of New Dawn's Grand Assembly building. At 78 years old, his hair had turned white, and his steps were slower, but his eyes remained sharp as they took in the magnificent structure before him. "Quite different from Centaurus Station, isn't it?" asked President Maria Torres, who had come personally to greet him. Though she had served as Earth's president for over 2 decades, she too had finally agreed to step down after this historic day. Reed smiled as he looked at the gleaming building. Unlike the imposing hierarchical design of the Council chamber, the Grand Assembly building was circular, with sweeping arches that connected the different sections rather than separating them. Representatives from over 100 species moved through the open corridors, their voices creating a symphony of languages. "When they turned us away, I never imagined this would be the result," Reed admitted. "I thought we had lost our chance to join the galactic community." Torres laughed softly. "Instead, we built a better one." They walked together through the main entrance, where Admiral Walker waited to escort them to the inaugural session. Around them, the building buzzed with activity as the final preparations were made for the historic gathering. "Is it true that Council representatives are attending?" Reed asked. Walker nodded. Yes, and not just as observers. After the Battle of Threshold Point, everything changed. The Council's military enforcement branch was dissolved by vote of their own members. High Chancellor Vex was removed from power. The new leadership has requested formal diplomatic relations. And we agreed. Reed raised an eyebrow. With conditions, Torres replied. The new Galactic Assembly will replace both the Council and our alliance structures. Every species will have equal representation, regardless of their history or technology level. They entered the main chamber, a perfect circle with seats arranged in concentric rings, rather than the tiered hierarchy of the old council. At the center stood a platform with a simple podium, designed at a height accessible to species of various sizes. The chamber ceiling was a massive dome that showed the actual stars above New Dawn, a reminder of the vastness they all shared. "It's time," Walker said, checking his timepiece. "They're ready for you, Ambassador Reed." Reed straightened his formal diplomatic uniform, the same one he had worn 25 years ago on Centaurus Station, carefully preserved for this moment. "Are you ready for this, James?" Torres asked quietly. Reed nodded. "I've been waiting 25 years to finish my speech." The chamber fell silent as Reed approached the central podium. Around him sat representatives from across the galaxy, members of the former Alliance, independent worlds, and yes, former Council species. Among them, he recognized the crystalline form of a luminar and the star-speckled skin of a voidborn, now seated as equals alongside humans, Nilari, Kareth, and dozens of others. 25 years ago, Reed began, his voice clear and strong despite his age. "I stood before the Galactic Council seeking admission for humanity. I was told that we were too unpredictable, too dangerous to join the galactic community." He paused, looking around the chamber. They were right, but not in the way they thought. Humanity is unpredictable. We faced rejection and chose creation over resentment. We encountered barriers and found ways through them rather than submitting to them. We met new species and offered partnership instead of conquest. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The old council believed order came from control, from older species guiding younger ones, from maintaining traditions that had lasted for millennia. What we discovered in the dark sectors was that true strength comes from diversity, from the combining of different perspectives, from allowing each voice to contribute regardless of how long they've been among the stars. Reed gestured to the chamber around them. This Galactic Assembly represents a new approach, not a council that judges who is worthy, not an alliance formed in response to rejection, but a true union of all willing species, each with one vote, each with an equal voice. From the front row, a Luminar representative rose. Unlike High Chancellor Vex with his rigid posture, this Luminar's crystalline form flowed more freely, reflecting the light in gentler patterns. "Ambassador Reed speaks wisdom," the Luminar said. "For 10,000 years, my species helped lead the Council, believing we were preserving order. We forgot that the greatest strengths come not from control but from adaptation, something humans reminded us of through their actions rather than their words." The Voidborn representative stood next. "When we rejected Earth's petition, we believed we were protecting the galaxy from an unpredictable element. Instead, we pushed that element to create something that has ultimately strengthened us all. The Battle of Threshold Point showed us what we had become, and what we could be instead." One by one, representatives rose to speak, those who had been part of the Alliance from its early days, those who had joined later, and former council members who had chosen this new path. As the session continued, Reed stepped back from the podium and rejoined Torres and Walker. "Not bad for a species that was told to stay in their solar system," Torres said with a smile. Reed watched the proceedings with satisfaction. "Do you know what the most popular story is throughout the galaxy now? Earth was banned from the Council, so they made their own empire. It's told on hundreds of worlds, in countless languages." Walker shook his head. "But what we built isn't an empire. Empires conquer. We connected." That's why the story is so powerful, Reed replied. It reminds everyone that rejection doesn't have to be the end. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a better path. As the day continued, the first official acts of the new Galactic Assembly were recorded. Trade agreements were standardized. Mutual defense pacts were signed. Scientific cooperation initiatives were launched. The barriers around the dark sectors were officially classified as protected transit routes rather than dangerous boundaries. That evening, Reed stood on the observation deck of the assembly building, looking up at the stars. A young Nilari approached, its 4 arms carrying a recording device. "Ambassador Reed," the Nilari said respectfully, "I am documenting the history of this day for future generations. May I ask you one question?" Reed nodded. "When humans were first rejected by the Council, did you ever imagine this outcome?" Reed looked out at the city of New Dawn, where beings from hundreds of worlds now lived and worked together. In the distance, ships of diverse designs arrived and departed from the spaceport, carrying the news of the new Galactic Assembly to worlds throughout the galaxy. "No," he admitted honestly. "But that's the thing about humans. We're unpredictable." The Nilari's large eyes blinked in what Reed had come to recognize as their version of laughter. "That," the young historian said, "is exactly why the galaxy needed you."